You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sarah J. Loureiro.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business podcast. This episode is going to be short and sweet, but it's about something that is just so important for your business. And I bet you that you've probably done this either once or definitely a few times in your business. I know that I have in mine. And the reason I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about this today is because I've seen so many of my clients and people in my community say, well, that just doesn't feel in alignment with me. Or that is something that in my gut, my intuition is telling me that I don't need to do or that I don't want to do. And while this is so helpful and I love this stuff and I love talking about intuition, as I was on a podcast with a friend of mine, we were talking about how sometimes our intuition, sometimes what we think our intuition is actually fear. It's fear disguised as our intuition. And I think we so loosely carry and talk about the concept of alignment and talk about the concept of intuition in online business. And this is something that is definitely overlooked. I've seen the term intuition, your gut feeling, your, being in alignment in your business. I've seen those words tossed around so much. And don't get me wrong, I use these words all of the time, but they can be misleading. They can be misleading. And in specific, our egos are what are misleading us. And the ego does a really, really great job of disguising fear and disguising it for other things. And so I didn't fully understand any of these concepts when I first started my business in 2015. It was a long time ago. Even though I was a yoga teacher and I was doing wellness coaching at the time, intuition was something that I tended to ignore a lot in the beginning of my business. And that was because I was so masculine energy focused and I was just focused on creating the webinars or getting the traffic to my website. And I didn't really fully understand that I could use my intuition in my business, that I could use that gut feeling in my business. But when we misunderstand that gut feeling, and when we use fear as an excuse, or when we misunderstand our fear as intuition, it leads to self-sabotage in our businesses. And I know that for me, for a long time, I would just tell myself, I just don't want to do that. That doesn't feel good to me. That doesn't feel good to me. And that, you guys, was selling. Okay? And I'm sure that a lot of you have felt this way before about selling, about growing, about relationship building. And the problem is when you always tell yourself, well, that just doesn't feel good to me. That doesn't feel like it's in alignment. That doesn't intuitively feel good. If we're not understanding what intuition is versus what fear is, we're not going to grow. You can't grow a business if you don't sell. You can't grow a business if you don't build relationships. Selling and building relationships are basically the same thing. And so if we are in tune with what is fear and what is intuition, we go about our strategies in our businesses in a super and effective way. And so let me give you an example of this because I feel like this happens so often. Tell me if you've ever experienced this, okay? Selling doesn't feel aligned to me. So, getting on sales calls or asking people about their objections when it comes to working with me, that doesn't feel aligned to me, right? Or having conversations, connecting with people, going out and finding like-minded people in Facebook groups or on Instagram. That doesn't feel aligned to me. So I'm not going to do that. Okay. And I think that a part of the problem here isn't just that we're disguising fear with intuition and disguising fear with misalignment or alignment. The biggest problem here is that we're not taught to understand our fears, and we're not fully grasping the concept of, oh, well, maybe this is fear. Maybe this is a limiting belief. And so when we just use intuition as like this shallow thing in our business, right? Like the tip of the iceberg rather than the beneath the iceberg, we're not allowing ourselves to actually use our intuition in the right way. Because what we're saying is, I just kind of want to avoid this type of thing. I want to avoid this thing in my business. But when we avoid, we're not actually going deeper. We're not working on ourselves. We're not hitting our highest potential. We're not doing the things that make us scared. And when we're not doing the things that make us scared, we're not growing. And if we're not growing internally, oftentimes we're also not growing externally, because the way that we do our strategies is actually so much more important than the actual strategies that we're doing. And I'm not trying to say that like anyone and everyone should do the exact same strategies for their businesses. I personally teach, I think I have about 5 different growth strategies that I teach to my clients, and I teach like what the benefits, the pros and cons are of each growth strategy. I also teach multiple sales strategies as well, just because I know that not everyone's going to be in alignment with the exact same type of strategy. But when you say that you're in misalignment, or everything feels unaligned, or everything feels like it's always this gut feeling that like, no, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. This stops us from moving forward. And it stops us from moving forward in a way where we no longer are actually using our power. We're no longer using our truth. We're no longer being able to connect with the people that we really want to connect to in our businesses. And of course, this also spills into the whole idea of, okay, well, I want a 6-figure business, right? Like I want to make 10K months, but I'm not willing to do this. I'm not willing to do this. I'm not willing to do this. And I'm definitely not willing to do this. And while those things are super, super helpful, and I've definitely come into my business so many different times where I'm like, okay, I'm at this specific level. I love being at this level, but to move forward, I'm no longer available to do specific things. There's no shame in that. There's no problem in that. It's when we are not actually doing that deep internal work to understand where those fears are actually coming from. Because when we start to work on those fears, and when we start to work on, okay, rather than me avoiding this, let me dive deeper into it and understand why it doesn't feel aligned. Understand what here feels like that gut feeling of, no. It might not actually be the strategy. It might be about how you're going about the strategy, if that makes sense. And so what I love about this is that my coach that I'm currently working with, she's talking to me a lot about avoidance. And I didn't realize that I was avoiding things in my business. I'm at multiple 6 figures now. It's been really, really great to create a nice, steady, really abundant income. And of course, as a high performer, as an overachiever, I always want to do more. I always want to go further. I want to hit my true potential. And so I'm always wanting to say, okay, how much more of an impact can I create? How much more can I do? And what we've been looking at even in my business is, where am I avoiding things? What areas of my business am I not actually going in and doing that deep inner work with? And this process has been so profound for me, so profound that I've understood from doing it that it's really shaping the way that I'm even doing my strategy and the way that I'm implementing my strategy. And it's interesting to me because I didn't even know that I was doing this. I didn't even know that I was avoiding. And this avoidance comes from this whole like, well, love and light, I'm just not going to do this today because I don't feel like doing it, or I don't feel in alignment today. So I'm going to have to take a break and take a break tomorrow. And then before you know it, you're creating all of these breaks for yourself. And you're like, I'm not selling. I'm not growing because these things feel really uncomfortable for me. They feel in my gut like something that I just shouldn't be doing. And then before you know it, you're weeks or months into your business and you're not seeing the results that you really want to see. And it's not necessarily because of the strategy that you're implementing, but it's the way that you're going about it and the way that you're going about that fear versus intuition. And so I'd love for you to even just like take a pause here and start to ask yourself, where have I potentially been doing this? Because we all do it. We all do it. The whole, well, that doesn't feel like something that I want to do, or that intuitively doesn't feel good. And one of my, I want to say pet peeves that I've been seeing circulating the internet is this post that's like, your intuition is your best strategy. And I think that that's really, really great for people who full on know what their intuition actually is. But even so, I mean, even someone like me who's high achiever, achieved a lot in my business, I'm a yoga teacher, I practice meditation daily. There are even specific points in time for me where I have to do that deep inner work to realize what is actually my intuition and what is fear. And so for people who are completely new, for people who've been in business for a year or a few years, they're not going to fully grasp that concept. They're not going to grasp my intuition is my best strategy because they don't even know how to like fully catapult into their intuition and fully trust that. And not to mention that masculine energy is imperative for business. Strategy is not just something that's in your intuition. So if you don't know how to grow your following, you're not just going to listen to your gut and your gut's going to be right every single time. There are tried and tested methods that work really, really well to do specific things in business, right? Like that's why we have business coaches. That's why we have programs. That's why we have mentors, because there are better ways to do things. And so if you don't know how to do something, how can you expect your intuition to tell you how to do it, right? And oftentimes what I see happening is this whole like, well, I'm just going to trust my intuition to do this. I'm going to just trust my intuition. I'm just going to trust my intuition. But then you're sitting there 3 months later, trusting your intuition or what you think is your intuition. And you're not growing. You're stagnant. Something is up. And so what is this thing that is up? To me, it's that we're not doing that deep inner work to understand the fear, to understand the intuition. And we're definitely not taking action based on the things that we really do need to do in order to move our businesses forward. And so I want to give you a really simple exercise to help you understand the difference between fear and intuition. And this is an exercise that I do with all of my clients anytime that they quote unquote feel stuck and they're just racing in their minds. And I found it to be quite effective, especially because one, we're turning off all of the outside noise. And two, I think one of the most important things in terms of listening to your gut and listening to alignment is making sure that when you're listening to it, that you're getting into a still place, that you're getting into a comfortable space where you're no longer allowing all of your emotions to take charge. So one of the best times that you can do something like this is after you shake out your body, after you go for a run, go for a bike ride, go for a walk, anything like that, where you're just kind of clearing out all the stagnant energy in your body so you can actually really, truly understand what's going on within. Because if you just kind of do this exercise, and you have all these thoughts and all of these emotions and all these fears going on, guess what? Fear is going to misalign for you. And fear is going to say, okay, I'm just going to pretend that I'm intuition right now because I don't want you to make a bad choice, because I don't want you to fail. And that's usually what ends up happening. So if you want to do this, we can actually do this together right now. You can go ahead and close your eyes. So you can even pause this and do your shakeout, do whatever you need to do some jumping jacks to get yourself in a nice, calm, energetic state. And once you do that, close your eyes, take a deep breath. And whatever the thing is that you really want to understand, if it's intuition or if it's fear, I want you to bring that decision, bring that choice up for yourself. And make sure that you're in a place where you feel grounded, where you feel calm. A great way to do this is make sure that you take all of the air out of your body and just kind of stay in stillness there, just for a few moments before you take another deep breath in. And once you do that, once you have that decision out in front of you, I want you to think of what your self-sabotage self wants to do in this situation. So what does self-sabotage you want to do in this situation? So go ahead and bring that person to mind. Notice how they feel. Notice how they're behaving. Those are really, really important things. Notice their posture. And then from there, so put that person off to the side. And then from there, ask yourself, okay, what does queen me want to do? What does king me want to do? What does the highest version of me want to do? And I think often, I always put a caveat in here because oftentimes we think that queen or king us, the highest version of us, is this like superhuman, someone who isn't even human, someone who doesn't have emotions, someone who doesn't get upset about failures, someone who isn't human, essentially. And that's not helpful in this situation. So make sure that your person is human. Make sure the highest version of yourself is actually a human that experiences all of the emotions. But the difference is that highest version of yourself experiences those emotions without immediately reacting to them. Okay? And ask that highest version of you, what is intuition here? What is intuition? What is that gut feeling for me in terms of this decision or in terms of this thing that I need to resolve for myself and for my business? And then take a look at both of them, right? Self-sabotage you is fear. Highest potential you is intuition. And that's how you know the difference. And you can repeat this exercise literally for anything that you do. And after you become very well acquainted with it, you don't even need to notice the posture, notice the feelings, notice the emotions with it. You can kind of just close your eyes, take a deep breath and say, okay, what is going on here? Am I at a space right now energetically where I can even handle this decision? If I handle this decision right now, is it going to come from a place of intuition, or is fear and all of these emotions, are they still masking what it is that I need to see? And if you're not in that place, go and get yourself into that place. But it's literally, it could be so simple. It's so simple to make sure that you're in that alignment. And oftentimes you'll find, okay, well, yes, I do want to sell, but there's something underneath that. There's something underneath the, well, selling doesn't feel in alignment with me. Okay. Is it the script that someone gave you? Is it the way that someone told you to do it? Or is it also because of all of the experiences that you've had when you've been sold to? And once we pick apart all of those layers, the intuition and the intuitive aspect of your business becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And instead of having something that's holding you back, self-sabotaging, it's actually something that's helping to propel you forward in your feminine energy, while also making sure that it's allowing your masculine energy, it's allowing the strategy to go full force. And when you have those two perfectly in sync for your own body and for your own life, the possibilities are endless. They really, really are. But we just want to make sure that when we're speaking about intuition, when we're speaking about intuition as our best strategy, that we're actually talking about intuition and that we're not talking about fear. So let me know how you enjoyed this episode. If you want to send me any comments or any feedback, feel free to do so at Sarah without an H, SarahJLoureiro. So Sarah J. Loureiro on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. And if you liked this episode and if you love this podcast, you can hit subscribe and leave me a 5-star review. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope that this was helpful. I know it's been helpful for me and so many of my clients. And I'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarahjloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.